Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Huang Nguyen, aka Lady Gemma. Welcome. All right. So today's topic is going to be doctor versus real estate investor. For those of you who may not know me personally yet, I am an eye doctor, an optometrist, graduated back in 2006, and so I've been practicing for 17 years now. And we started our real estate journey about 8 years ago into real estate investing. So I want to share a little bit of my views, pros and cons on formal education versus the self-education, and what I feel has been very valuable and what I wish could be improved upon. Let me just down this real quick. Okay. All right. So let's start with formal education, a little bit more the traditional trajectory. And then I'm going to deep dive a little bit about formal education, what I really felt like was super valuable as I was attaining my bachelor's degree and my doctorate degree. And then the additional self-education, things that I felt the formal education school system really didn't teach me, that I really felt like I had to go learn in addition, and I continue to learn. So I'm going to focus first part of the journey on more the formal education of going to school. And so for me, going to school, traditional first was getting graduating high school and then going to college. I went to Tulane University, did a 4 years bachelor's. I double majored in Bachelor of molecular biology, and psychology. And I did pre-optometry. And so for an optometry degree, that's an additional 4 years. So that's kindergarten, and then 12 years, first grade to 12th grade, and then college for 4 years, and then optometry for another 4 years to get a doctorate of optometry. And so if you're going to school and it's specialized education, it's very different. If I were to stop and just get a bachelor's degree, I think in today's environment, if you're not really specialized in a certain area, just having a bachelor's degree alone doesn't necessarily mean you could be really valuable in the workforce. If you're going for a specific degree where you're going for engineering, or you're pursuing to become a doctor or an attorney or a special trade of some sort, then there's more value in the workforce. And so, for example, as an employee or as an employer, right? So if we're looking for someone to fill a position, it's great if they have a degree, but if they don't have any type of skill sets that would be useful in the position we're trying to fill, that's going to be harder as a candidate. And so I think you don't have to have a formal degree. I value both. There's always a school of thought like you have to pick one or the other. There are so many successful people that don't have a degree. They've never graduated high school. They were dropouts, and they've done extremely well because they've maintained a totally different type of self-education and drive. But I still believe in the formal education system, especially I love being a doctor. And so that was something, when I was young, I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, and working by age 10, but I was in the food industry. And if anyone's ever worked in the restaurant industry, very, very long hours. And so the path of formal education and becoming a doctor, I think, is really good in the sense that, yes, in order to especially become an eye doctor, you have to have specialized knowledge and clinical skills and training in the physiology and the biology and learning all of that in order to become a doctor. And so for me, the formal education on that part was great. Now, when you become a doctor, let's kind of talk about what they don't teach you in school. Um, and the biggest thing for me going to school is I feel like financial literacy education was lacking. I don't really feel like, personally, for me and many people that I've spoken to, that self development or nutrition, proper nutrition education, I don't think that was really um, more preventative type cares. I think would have been really beneficial to have in our school systems. Um, the other thing I think is business, entrepreneurship, how to run a business, even the basics. I don't think that was really taught, at least not for us. And so when you become a doctor or an attorney or an engineer, or you get your degree, they prepare you to be an employee, to be ready to write a resume, to get you out into the workforce, to work for someone else. So go to school, get good grades, get a good education, get a good job. And they teach you to go to school and work hard and retire and save up in your retirement fund until you're 65. So then you can hopefully have enough money to retire. That's what I learned in the formal education system. And the bulk of people that I speak to, that's traditionally how we're taught. Now, today's school system, I don't know if that's changed, and I hope that it has, but that's the way that we were taught. And so when we graduated, Jaime and I combined had $350,000 of student loan debt. And when you're young and you're not taught financial literacy, right? You see credit card companies on college campuses. And when you're young, you're 18 and 19 years old, you're just graduating from high school. And you're attending and you can apply for a credit card. Can you imagine if you're not well versed? It's how tempting it could be to just want to live off of your credit cards and buy more and not understand the effect of credit score or the impact of borrowing, and how much, if you're buying $100 item and you're paying it bare minimum, and how much interest that's accumulated. I mean, these are just very basic things that I feel like our school system has not taught us. Even in the world of investing and how money really works, I mean, I didn't learn that until much, much later. Nothing part of the school system at the beginning, right? But I value my degree of becoming a doctor because I learned a lot of knowledge and my clinical skill sets of becoming a really great eye doctor. Now, being a good eye doctor and being a good practice owner and starting your own practice and be totally different animal, because that's something that we had to learn on our own. And so that's where self-education comes into play, and where you have to learn the business side. And so what I would encourage, if anyone's listening, is learning from a mentor who is in a specialized educated lane in the vertical that you want to expand upon, to learn directly from that person, because that way it can be very specific to your vertical. And so when we were starting off, we were very intentional that we wanted a private practice, an eye care practice, right? And so we worked in private practices, and then we learned the things that we liked and what we didn't like from those practice models, because we knew that within the next 4 or 5 years, we were going to plan to build and do our own. And so Jaime and I both have mentors who are also optometrists who run very successful private practices. And so we learned a lot from them. And so when we created and built our own practice, we modeled the things that we enjoyed from our mentors to create the model for our own business. But it's because we had direct learning from our mentors in the optometry lane. Once we started doing our real estate journey, and for those who don't know why, a lot of people get confused because they say you should just stick to one lane. And I agree, focus is important. Follow one course until success. And so at the time, we were very driven on building our practices and learning the ins and outs. The very basics of even building your own team, of hiring good employees, of training good staff, how to maintain staff, building systems for our practices, HR things, legal things, structures, corporate structures. These are all things part of business that you have to have a good team to not just make money, but to also protect yourself. And so these are things that we had to learn along the way. And the more that you have someone that you have as a mentor, and a mentor really serves to, mentor / coaches, right? To hold you accountable, to collapse the time frame, and to minimize the mistakes that you make. And we're all going to make mistakes along the journey of whatever you're doing. There's going to be failures, there's going to be mistakes, but if you have a direct source or a community that you can tap into, so you can ask someone who has more experience, who has already crossed that path, that you can have they can resolve and help you resolve a problem or help you grow and scale. That's why proximity is so important. And so that's why you'll hear the saying, your network is your net worth. And I cannot stress how important that is. And so the learning never stops. So just because you have a degree or a title, it doesn't mean you automatically are going to do financially well, or you're going to personally do well in your life. And so, when people say, which one do you value more, a formal education, or do you think your real estate investing has done better for you? And I'm not going to give the final answer just yet, but I'm going to kind of give you pros and cons of a little bit of each before I kind of give you my final thought on that. But let's talk a little bit about self-education. One of the things that Jaime and I started exploring self-development. I feel that that's an area that, we're taught a lot about business and career. And so most of our lives, we're talking about business and career. Let's talk about self-development and mindset and belief systems and our value system. Because I think at the core, if we can really master that, and it's a consistent training, it's not something you go to an event. Hi, Valessa Taylor, how are you? Look forward to our lunch later. But it's when you talk about your subconscious mind, as an adult, a lot of our actions and our thought processes and our value system stems, if we're not intentionally working on retraining our mind towards positive things and manifesting what we truly want in our life, our subconscious mind, 90% of the time, is putting thoughts into our mind that we're not even aware of. And it could stem back from way, way back in your childhood. And so I learned that as an adult these past 10 years of really doing deep work of emotional healing and things that I do as of today, or habits or behaviors that still creep up that stem from my childhood that I wasn't even aware of. And so I think self-development and learning mindset and belief is so powerful. When I started getting into, when we talk about $350,000 for our formal education to get our doctorate, we probably spent $450,000 in addition to that to work on self-development, personal development, business coaching, real estate investing, learning the mentorship programs and coaching and like hiring individual people to really collapse the time frame for us. And it's been a magnificent growth journey. And it was exactly that, investing in ourselves, investing in specialized knowledge. And so when we did personal development, we follow a lot of different ones. When we did Tony Robbins, we did his Unleash the Power Within. We did Life and Wealth Mastery. We did Date with Destiny. We did Business Mastery with Tony Robbins. And each of those were really different. And I've done Unleash the Power Within 3 times. And a lot of it is about limiting beliefs. And so that was a big, big pivotal moment for me to be able to expand and be in an environment of other people that I felt really safe with. It was a space where I felt like, wow, I was so complacent and comfortable for a while after I was able to achieve my practice and I was in practice mode. And it was just kind of like a daily routine. And I got comfortable. And so pushing out of my comfort zone took really growing into this personal development space of believing and dreaming bigger. When I became a doctor, I honestly thought that was that I hit my milestone. That was like at the time, I thought that was my dream goal. Like if I could ever make 6-figure income and I can own my own practice, I thought that was the ultimatum. Like I thought I was set. And the reality of it was when I got there, I was still working 60, 70 hours. I was hustling and there was a lot of things that I didn't own my time. I did not own my time. And I didn't get to truly have freedom. And so that's where we started, how do I grow my income, but also have more flexibility of time? And so our daughter was that next milestone, pivotal point. At this point, it was, 2009. We got married. Athena was born 2014. And so 2014 was when I was like, okay, I have worked so hard all my life, and I'm still putting in the 60 to 70 hours a week. We're finally starting to see the fruits of our labor and see some money come in from our practices. But man, we're working so hard. We're still working 6-7 days a week. We're hustling. And I want to spend time with my daughter, like our daughter. And I wanted to be a good mom. But on the same token, I wanted to continue serving patients. I wanted to continue to have a bigger footprint and have bigger impact. And so I didn't want to accept that was it. Like I wanted more. I wanted more. And I wanted to be able to spend milestones. I didn't want to be that busy mom where all I did was go to work. And then by the end of the day, my daughter was getting second best of me. I didn't want that. And so that's where my journey of like, how can I achieve financial freedom, multiple streams of income, and buy back some of my time. And so that's where real estate investing started. And we joined a mentorship program. We went to lots of different conferences, listened to lots of podcasts, read a bunch of books, and we learned different asset classes. We learned about single family, about wholesaling, about land. And so even multifamily, we didn't learn about multifamily until a little bit later, but we started out with just buying land, and we built our home, and we, did it as a vacation home, but then also as a Airbnb. And then we invested in a hotel. And then we learned about syndications. And that's where the syndication was like, okay, how can I truly make my money work for me? And we started passively investing in syndications where we would put $50,000 to $100,000 in different vehicles where we were buying apartment communities and having someone else leveraging their team to grow our money for us. And so multifamily syndications, we heavily started investing in that in 2017, 2018. And we kept rolling money in there. And we started off with 8 passive deals as a passive investor, learning the ropes of how to do syndications and how the multifamily really worked. And when we started learning, wow, this is true mailbox money, not by check anymore, it's ACH by now. But this is like no extra time. I'm not being a landlord. This is money multiplying and growing for us. And when we started seeing money flow in and we were achieving cash flow, and one of the things school doesn't teach you, they teach you about how making money, income, salary. No one teaches you about tax advantages and savings and strategizing. And that was a big vehicle for us because obviously as doctors and being in a higher tax, higher income bracket, we're also in the highest tax bracket. And so learning tax advantages and how do we actually grow that, real estate was a huge vehicle for that because and what we learned is the government, they give tax incentives and they want people in areas where they want people to invest in. And so housing, right? Housing's a big need. People need a good place to live, affordable housing, right? And job opportunities. And so multifamily is a perfect sector for that because you're providing housing for people and job opportunities. And that's why you have these advantages where you have bonus depreciation. And so when I started learning about cost segregation, that every one of these syndications that were buying apartments, that they were doing a cost segregation study. And of course, we do it all now on our properties. But what you hire an engineering firm that goes in and they itemize everything on as far as the building, everything within the property itself, and they give you an estimation of what type of depreciation. So instead of standard depreciation of 27 and a half years, hi Al, how are you? You're getting this, and that's why, when you're talking about real estate investing, you're talking about cash flow, appreciation of an asset. You're talking about depreciation. You're talking about tax advantages, right? So these are all, it's not about how much money you make. It's how much money do you actually keep, right? And so those are all part of the financial strategy. And until you track and you write down, your numbers, there's no way of really improving it. It's just like in your health journey or your weight journey. The more that you can write things and track things, the better you can improve it. KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. And so you want to do that. And if you haven't already done a PFS, a personal financial statement, whether you're invested in real estate or not. I didn't even do my first PFS until I became a real estate investor. And I did my first loan and they wanted my PFS. But in school, I never really did that. And so really tracking down and learning about, and PFS comprises of your assets and really itemizing it down. And we update it quarterly, but to have a pulse on what are your assets, what makes you money, what brings you money, right? In what you own versus your liabilities or what you owe, what's leaking money, right? What are you spending money on? What do you owe versus what do you own? Assets versus liabilities. And so for us, building more assets is super important. And if you haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that was a big game changer for us. And that was probably another reason we went into a real estate journey, was reading Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter wrote the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a little purple book. I think most people in our circles now have read that book and That was probably the book that caused them to go transition into uh, investing and learning more about building assets and cash flow. And then your income and your expenses, having a true pulse of the cash flow of what's going in and what you're spending things on and going out. Hi, Elena. But if you don't track that, it doesn't, most people don't have a problem with how much they make, right? Hi, Anna. It's some people, it doesn't matter how much they make. I know athletes and celebrities that make plenty of money, more than us probably 100 times in our lifetime, but they will still spend it all because of lifestyle inflation. And they don't think about investing in long term and building long term generational wealth, not just the now. And so I want you to ask yourself, like, are you in a position, even if you make 7 figure in income right now, if something were to happen to you tomorrow and you physically could not show up to work, to do your job, would your family, or would you be in a position financially to be still okay? And how long would that money in your emergency fund, if you even have that, can you live off of? And that's why assets are so important. And when we talk about self-education and specialized knowledge, and the specialized knowledge of personal development and real estate investing were 2 big vehicles for us, because passive income, when we talk about financial freedom, we're talking about passive income, money that you don't have to put your time in, but truly diversified, where money just comes in regardless you show up to work or not. Can that cover all of your expenses? And how long? And is that a continuous cycle? And the more that you can build up assets and cash flow and more passive income, that's where you have true freedom. And to have freedom of time and finances, I mean, that is one of the ultimate goals. You know, a lot of us, there's 3 pillars. And I learned this from one of our mentors, and he invited someone in, and he's a billionaire, and he talks about there are 3 things that most of us don't have simultaneously. We may have 2 out of the 3, but we don't usually have all 3 at the same time. Health, finances, where you're financially well off, and time. So when you're young, you have a lot of time and you have your health, but you don't have your money yet. And then as an adult, and you're in your core and your peak of your career, we usually have health, maybe, and money, but we don't have time. And then when you get older, you may have the time and you have the money, but you lack the health. And so if you can have all 3 simultaneously, you have great health. And when we talk about health, we're talking about not just physical health. We're talking about emotional, spiritual, physical, right? The whole components of mental health, everything combined. Having that be in a really good place where you're peaceful, having good money where you're where you're set, where you're not really worrying about the next about bills or anything, where you're truly financially set. And then the 3rd pillar of time, where you have time freedom, where you can choose to work, because if you enjoy doing what you're doing, it's not really work, right? But you have options. And that's what freedom is really about, is just having options. And a lot of us might want to still continue. We love what we do, so we continue doing. We don't want to just sit. There's only so much. If you want to sit on a beach or travel all the time, that's great. You have the freedom and flexibility to do that. But really, once you've achieved all 3, it's always going to be a little bit even, what else can I do to help other people, right? More mission. How can I give back? What kind of footprint? And so there's always a higher tier of what you can have. But a lot of times when you're stuck in the first area, where you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can't even think about self-development more, or it's harder to even get into the circles of how do I get more, to work on myself and my health, and so money is important. Growing up, I had this perception that rich people were evil, that they were greedy, that they were not good people, that money changes people, that, you hear it all the time, money is the root of all evil. And the honest truth is, I've met so many, many high tier people. They are the most humble people. They're not, they're not even well known. These are people that are out there creating big impact, and they're doing a lot of philanthropy work, and they're low key, and they give back so much. And so I've learned that having more, and it's money doesn't, if you're at the core already a good person and you want to do better, money just exponentially grows that. Just like if you were a bad person and you had bad intentions, money just multiplies that. So money is not, but money helps. I've been broke, and I've lived paycheck to paycheck. Many a times. I grew up in a little trailer. Jaime grew up in a little itty duplex that he lived for in Irving for 20 something years. Family of 5, 3 of them were living in one little bedroom. I mean, so we know what it feels like to have barely anything, and we've lived paycheck to paycheck. I wrote a post recently, I worked for free most of my life, and then when I started working, my first job was $4.25 an hour. So you learn how to budget real quick when you don't have any money. But the truth is, it's you have to be intentional, and you have to track your numbers. If you want to improve an area of your life, track it. You want to improve your health, track it. There's so many things and apps and online free resources now that you can use. You want to improve your money situation, track it. And write down, every single item. You'd be surprised how much a coffee here, out there, how much a little bit of this, buying a little bit of that, how much you spend on frivolous things. Really write down what your needs are versus what your wants are. And I think those are big things. But it's easier for me to be creative and figure out how can I make more money, and how can I multiply and diversify, and be more creative, because it's easier for me to grow money than to cut down expenses. There's only so much you can cut down, right? And so it's important to know both. But I think learning how to multiply money and how to have money work for you is really more important. So today I want to be a little bit more engaged, where whoever's in with me today, write in the comments if you have a question for me that you would like for me to target a little bit more on. And let's have a conversation. I know there's Anna Johnson. I see comments. I can't really see who's on with me. I can only see if you write a comment who's on with me. So if you have a question, I'll see it on my comment section, but if you'll write it. So I see Valessa Taylor. Hi. I see Al Salas. I see Elena Kolasnik. I hope I pronounced that correct. Anna Johnson. Drop me in the other ones. I can't see who's on with me unless you write actually a comment for me or ask me a question. If not, I'll just continue on a little bit more on mindset and the return on investment on that. Okay. So if there's no questions yet, I'm going to talk a little bit about let's see, Tony Robbins. I'm going to talk about the investment we personally put into that. We invested so all of those, that was probably close to $80,000 for Tony Robbins that we invested in. And that was a big moving needle for us. And so the ROI financially and the ROI on what I felt like it coincided with the time that I started with my real estate journey. And so before, I was very closed off. I was very shy, very intimidated, didn't really feel comfortable speaking to people. I felt really good with my team and patience, like one-on-one. I've always been strong in that. But in a conference, or a networking event, it was very overwhelming for me. And so my first real estate conference, we probably had about 350 people, everyone passing out business cards. I didn't even have a business card going into these. And I was so overwhelmed. I sat in the back corner and I was just like, oh, please, please, nobody come talk to me, because it was just overwhelming. I just wanted to learn. I didn't really want to talk to people. But Tony Robbins' environment and going through all of his programs and their immersion. If you've never been to an Unleash the Power Within or one of his programs, it's literally you're there for 15 to 16 hours, right? And you're walking on, by the time that after the first day, you're walking on hot coals, like walking on fire that just got burned out. So it's hot coals. But it's the mindset and the training, right? But I think that in coinciding with Tony Robbins, with my real estate journey, was perfect timing, because it made me so much, I learned a lot about myself, and I started building my self-confidence and a lot of things from within, where before I was really looking for validation from the external world and approval from other people and what people would perceive of me and people judging me and all these fears. And so I combated and faced a lot of my fears with that help of that world. And so the ROI on that, I can't even put a number on that. Okay, I have some questions coming in. Oh, I have Tui Jang on here. She's my cousin. She's in optometry school right now. She went to an Unleash the Power Within with me. All right, so how do you collapse the time frame right out of school, just getting started with your first big paycheck? All right, so that's a great question. So collapsing the time frame right out of school, and I'll tell you exactly what we did. So when my first paycheck, when I started out, I was offered a position 5 days a week. And at that time, I was offered $110,000 for 5 days a week. Jaime, around the same initially. So the first paycheck, most people would want to be like, oh, wow, I can now start buying a home or a new car, or all of a sudden their lifestyle changes really fast. So, Jan, what we did was at that time, we were renting a 1-bedroom apartment. And so we were living still very low. I mean, we probably at that time, apartments don't cost this low anymore, but back then we were paying $550 a month to rent a small 1-bedroom, a C-class apartment in Arlington, Texas. We kept our old car. And so during that time, the first few years, because we know that it was buying our own practice was the goal within the next 4 or 5 years, we learned to really budget. And so cooking our own meals, we would pack our food, we would meal prep. And that was a big thing. We love food. If anybody knows Jaime and I, we love food. But that's a bucket that most people spend a lot of money on, is eating out and buying coffee out. And so we had our own coffee machine at home. We made our own coffees. We cooked, and we cooked well, right? And so we would prep and cook, and that was bonding time for Jaime and I to cook together. The other thing we did was to collapse time frame is, look at a mentor, right? And, the good thing is you have, as far as you're an optometrist, so when you come out, whether you're with me or with someone else, find ways that you can either work extra to create an additional income. So we did what's called relief work, Jan. And so we worked Saturdays and Sundays. A Sunday for me back then was a half day. And so I committed to going in to work 3.5 hours. They paid me $350 to work 3.5 hours each Sunday. And yes, did it sacrifice some time to do other fun things on a weekend? Yeah. But I'm like, man, $350 extra on that Sunday. And then Saturdays, that's an extra, 400 something dollars, 475, 450 sometimes. You add those two up per month, that's a lot extra. Now, what you do with that extra, right, is super important. Because if you do extra and you spend extra, then you're not widening the gap. The goal is to widen the gap of the extra money, right? So the less you spend, the more you make, the more they have you gap. You start putting your money to work for you. Start investing that money. Put money aside. So every paycheck. So at the time, our employer had a program that we could put money in and they matched it. So we maximized that as much as we could. And then we also opened up our own account to start investing and saving money that way. And so we had a bucket of money that we were going to save for our practice, money that we put into investment that was in the retirement fund. And so you create that bucket right out of school. My financial advisor at the time, I would ask so many questions. And, I'm one of those people who asks lots of questions. I encourage, if you don't know something, ask. How does an IRA? What kind of IRA? What are things? What are some other vehicles right now? There are things on the market right now that you can get 3 to 5% that are lower risk money markets. So there are a lot of different buckets you can put your money. If you're just letting it sit in a checking account, not earning anything, you're not putting your money to work for you, right? And so, but the earlier you can learn about real estate investing or other ways of where you can put your money to work for you, the better. And so sometimes you can go into these syndications, for 25,000 or 50,000, and it may take you some time to save up enough money to pull that together, to invest in something like that, right? Because when you're first starting off, you're focusing on your prime career. Focus on your business. Once you have your business established, you use the cash flow from your business to work for you. But the primary goal should be your core business and your core, whatever you're doing, and doing really well with that. And then you can be more creative in putting your money to work for you. So that's what I would say, collapsing the time frame. But get around people. Don't just, when you become a doctor, I see this very often, that they kind of get enclosed to their own world, and they get comfortable once you're getting consistent pay. You're comfortable. You're like, oh, I have enough to live off of, but you don't really think long term. And so I challenge you to think long term and also think about buying time so that you have flexibility of time. Okay. Let's see. Anna Johnson says, you're right about financial literacy and that they don't teach that in school. Now, Anna Johnson is a school teacher. She's a phenomenal teacher, teaches 3rd grade. What's a good resource and book to help to get started? So, there's a lot of books out there that books are very specific. Some of them are more mindset driven, but there are, we talk about Robert Kiyosaki. That's not truly an investing book. It's not truly a financial literacy book, but it's high level, right? And so it's a good one to at least get started. Think and Grow Rich is another one. That's a classic, Napoleon Hill. But there are so many resources now. There's Facebook communities, Anna. There's also podcasts that you can listen to, depending on specifically what you want to listen to. And so, like, if it's really, even in real estate investing, there's too many asset classes and there's too many different verticals. And so if you want to learn specifically multifamily, or you want to specifically learn about short-term rentals or long-term rentals or BRRR or hotels or land development, then you can Google and search YouTube. There's a lot of content, or even on Google, there's Bigger Pockets. which is just a more, diverse community of real estate investing. But you can ask questions in there, because to learn, I would pick one or two to heavily concentrate your energy and time to learn about, instead of just being all over the place. Just pick one vertical and learn and go deep. And so I always say, pick one lane, go deep. Pick one lane, go narrow and deep, and then start expanding. Because if you learn a bunch of stuff all over the things, you'll get confused and you just won't move forward. And so I can talk to you a little bit more about that, Anna. But those are kind of good mindset books to get started. I follow Ed Milet a lot. I think he's really good in the world of he's a great, and his story is great. He's just finished his book, The Power of One More. He's a great speaker. So listen to his things on YouTube. I follow Les Brown, great mindset things. And mindset and finances go hand in hand, because the bigger your vision and your belief system and your habits and what you feed your mind, they all go hand in hand. Because once your mindset and your belief system and your habits starts to change, your finances will start to change, because your mind will just think differently. Before I couldn't even imagine $1 million, 10 million, 100 million, right? Because my mind just wouldn't be there. I was just trying to figure, how do I make a 6-figure income as a doctor? How can I hit the 100-something thousand income level? That was my thinking back then. And I thought that was like, wow, if I could ever achieve that, I've made it, right? But as you continue to grow and expand and see like what is actually possible, that those are the things. So Ed Milet, Les Brown, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. These are big resources that I follow. Zig Ziglar. There's an app called Growth Day. And there's daily things. There's a bunch of speakers in there. There's journals. There's activities for you to do. And so you can look at Brandon Burchard does that one. And it's an app on your phone that's an easy, if you're going to work or on your day, you're in the shower or whatever. It's an easy app that you can, and it's not that expensive, that you can utilize. So that's a great resource, Anna. I would start there. Let's see. Hi, V. So V Tran says, I agree with you 110%. Can you explain more about how the bank looks into your PFS? I have a flipping company and not sure how the bank calculates those short-term investment properties. Thank you. Flipping company. How to calculate the short-term investment properties. So, when we do our PFS, obviously we don't do flipping, so we don't know how that would get calculated. There is, I don't know if you got V, there's James Ang. He's from Old Capital. And he is a great person. He's not a bank per se, but he's a mortgage broker and a very valuable resource. And so he gives a lot of educational content. He puts a lot of things on YouTube. You can directly, and I can share his contact information with you, because he will help you have any questions about your PFS, because that's what they do. They look at your PFS and then they connect you with banks or large agency debt or other financial institutions that would be a good fit for your loan, your asset, or what you're lending for. So he would be a great resource I can connect you with. And those of you who want to learn more about the debt structure or investing or podcast, they have their own podcast called Old Capital. Paul Peoples is in charge of that with James Ang. But I can definitely connect you with them so they can make sure, and you could submit your PFS, and they can be a great resource and guidance to make sure that you're actually doing that correctly before you submit it anywhere. And they can even help you connect to because they'll do the work for you instead of you going directly to one bank. They can help you source what's the best options for you as far as interest rates, the time period, and what kind of asset it is. And so they're well out there. They're multi-billion dollar into lending. And so they would be a great resource for you, V. Anna, also, can you recommend a good mentorship program? There's so many. We are attending Brad Sumrock in August. And so let me give you my personal experience about mentorship programs. I'm a big believer in mentorship programs, and but what I would say is, what are you trying to achieve out of it? What position are you wanting to be in, Anna? So if you're looking to be a passive investor, or are you looking to be a general partner where you want to be an active syndicator? So Brad's program, and there's a few out there, right, that are in the multifamily specific space. And so some of the big names for mentorship programs in the multifamily space, you'll have Brad Sumrock, you have Rod Cleve, you have Michael Blanc. There is Dave Linda with RE Mentor. There is Joe. What's his last name? I can't think of his last name right now. So yes, I think mentorship is very important, but before you want to know kind of what your positioning is. These programs, they've gone higher and higher over time. For example, when we started Brad's program, it was about $25,000 a year. I believe it's up to about 30 something a year now for the first year, and then it scales down second, third, and whatnot. But we started off because we wanted to learn. It's not just about the mentoring, it was also about the ecosystem and the people in it. And so for us, we really valued that, making connections and learning hands-on and getting to see the properties and learning the underwriting process. And even though we started off as passive investors, our goal was always to become active investors. And so with Brad's program, you do have coaches. And so you'll have about 7 or 8 coaches that are under him. So you don't get Brad directly. You'll get assigned one of the coaches when you first start off, and then you can access them online and schedule an appointment when you specifically want them to review an underwriting, or you have questions about something, then you can schedule a call with the coach. And so you can go and look and feel. And the thing is, real estate is not a get rich quick. And so a lot of people don't realize how much, if you're going as an active investor, especially in the multifamily space, it's much harder to get your foot in the door in the multifamily space versus the single family space. So it really depends, Anna, if you're wanting to be active and if you're going to be the sole person, or if Joe's going to be doing this with you, and how much time commitment you're going to do this. When Jaime and I were still practicing full time and we were learning about real estate, and we spent a lot of conferences, our weekends were mostly learning conferences, listening to podcasts, underwriting deals, meeting brokers. It was like putting on, in addition to our 60 hours, we were also putting an additional 20, 30 hours into our real estate. But that was the front end commitment. And so what I tell people is, they see the outcome, but they don't want to put in the extra investment of time and money and work on the front end. And so being an active real estate it's like, it's a whole nother career. If you're looking at it as just a hobby, if you're truly just passively investing, you don't need to spend $25,000 or $30,000 on a mentorship program to learn how to efficiently passively invest. There are other programs, and we help people with learning how to passively invest. So you don't need to spend 30 grand. And there's a lot of other resources and meetups that are free that you can learn on passively investing and learning the ins and outs of that. Now, active investing is a total animal, because The true work is you can learn all you need to learn, but you don't really truly feel comfortable and confident in what you're doing until you actually do a deal. And the best way to do a deal is to partner with someone who already has experience. And so you don't actually make as many mistakes. When you're dealing with other people's money, that is extremely, extremely important that you are well educated yourself and that you are partnering with people who have the same value and ethics system and experience level. Because at the end of the day, you can be as good about winning a deal and underwriting a deal. And a lot of these mentorship programs focus on that. They teach you how to underwrite a deal. They teach you how to win a deal. They teach you just high level just to get the deal. But what I feel is lacking is the operational on what happens after the fact, the asset management, the build out of the operations, selling the property afterwards, the detailed debt structure. And so those are things that you have to do even in addition to these mentorship programs, but there are resources. And so what's great about these mentorship programs is it's an ecosystem, and there are people of different level of experience that you have opportunities to get to know and you get to partner. And so for us, that was valuable. We had a lot of these partnerships from people that we met in these masterminds that we invested in. Now, the mentorship program, that's 25, 30,000. The masterminds are an additional 30 to 35, 45,000 each year, right? And that's just one vertical. That's just for multifamily syndications. Business. Hi, Bill Wash. So Bill Wash is my business coach, talking about coaches and mentors. He's another one of our big mentors. When you talk about another vertical of learning, so Bill Wash, over 2 years ago, I started his program. He's, been a big pivotal journey of why I'm speaking on stages. I have a huge fear of public speaking. And if you want to ever get known for what you do and be positioned as an expert, and Bill taught us this, you need to speak on more stages. You get to get yourself out there. And because of him really kind of, pushing us to speak and really motivating us to get out there, I've learned now that that's a passion, something that I went from fear of public speaking. So the ROI on Bill Wash's, I've done his Rainmaker program multiple times, his Platinum Speaker program, his masterminds. We've gone to Bahamas, to Mexico, to Vegas, to all sorts of different destinations with him, right? We've done lots of these in-depth coaching, and it really helped us move the needle because within the 2-year time period, I think I've been on over 100, easily over 100 stages, virtual and live stages. And it's opened so many doors of opportunities. And so when you think about the ROI on that, way 10x multiplier for sure, because now we get asked so much to speak on so many different topics, whether it's real estate related or if it's mindset related or it's leadership related. That's been a huge vehicle of growth for us personally and financially. And it's boosted our self-confidence. It's personally boosted my self-confidence significantly. So thank you so much, Bill. Let's see, V. Please connect me to James when you have time. All right, V, I'll make sure I'll connect you to James Eng. But I think that's a great one. Anyone who's in the real estate space, who wants to learn a little bit more about debt structure. If you're investing, I think one of the biggest things is making sure that you understand debt, and how that works and what's the best type of financing options available for you. Another friend of ours and mentor of ours is Joseph Lamb with Loan Direct, and he does everything a bank doesn't do. And so if you can't find, a lot of people stop because they don't have good credit, or they don't have good paperwork or income. They have money, but they're not able to get a property under contract because they don't have the paperwork. Not legal, I'm talking about financial, where the traditional bank system is looking for. So there's other creative financing, there's other options. And so anyone who's needing to have good people to work with in the finance industry for lending, let me know and I can directly connect you with those people. Anyone who wants a business coach, I can connect you. Anyone who wants, to learn a little bit more, Jaime and I are going to be starting a show soon that we're going to go on weekly, and we're going to bring in other guests as well. But teaching about investing or mindset, we're going to take everything that we've learned in our 30-something years. I've been an entrepreneur since age 10. So everything that we've learned in our formal education plus our self-education, we're going to collapse that. It's crazy to think that even just 10 years ago, Jaime and I were still in the negative net worth. To say that we're over the 8-figure net worth in a 10-year period is crazy. To think that we have 600 million assets under management. Now, most people will say, well, I have all these assets under management. Don't confuse that with how much cash flow you have. Because a lot of people can say they have all of these number of units, but if you own a very small percentage. And so we co-own that, right? We don't own all of those ourselves. But the beauty of co-owning a whole bunch of different units and having these large assets is, even if we get a small percentage of that large amount, we have consistent cash flow and multiple streams. And so if you're thinking of 27 properties in multifamily, and then short-term rental, and then we have hotel, and then we have land, and then we have 2 practices, and so you have multiple streams of income coming in. And people see us traveling all the time. It's one of the things we love to do. We love mission work, and we love traveling the world and eating different foods and experiencing different cultures. And so we're able to do that now, but we put in the front work. We put in the hard work, and trust me, we work hard, but trust me, we play hard too. We enjoy life fully. And so our new show is going to be called Live Big, Give Bigger. And that is the name of our new show that we will be launching soon. Live big, give bigger. Because the more that you have, the more you become, the more that you can give. And that's where true fulfillment will come in. But money matters. Money does. Money feeds a lot of different things. You can do. Doors open so much. When money is not the end all. You don't work for money. But money allows you to have more flexibility and freedom, to be able to do a lot more things, to help a lot more causes, to have a platform, to create a voice. And that's why I love the world of speaking, because it allows me to have a platform to speak upon things I'm passionate about, to have people join me in missions and goals and give backs that I'm passionate about. And so we're going to be launching our Power Couples Retreat. Again, that one, thanks to Bill, talking about what other things we could do. But we want to do our first Power Couples Retreat. And a big portion of all of that is going to be a give back. It's all going to go towards charity. And so those are things that we're passionate about. And we want to help other couples in all the spokes of the wheels, in your life, in your health, right? In your finances, in your fun. All the different buckets, philanthropy, fulfillment, your health, all of the different buckets. And it's about life, living fully, creating the life that you really want. And so I'm going to now talk about, yes, formal education versus self-education. They've been both a huge, I value both. If I didn't have a doctorate degree, I wouldn't have the 2 successful private practices. But in the same token, if we didn't always continue our self-education to learn more about systems in our businesses, to learn about how do we scale our businesses, how to work smarter and not harder, how to benchmark and not just look at the dollar, but how do we, efficiently build teams and systems? If we didn't learn about real estate investing, if we didn't learn about tax advantages and savings, if we didn't learn about asset protection, if we didn't get into the world of meeting all of these higher people doing philanthropy work, we wouldn't be fulfilled and kind of in the place where we are now. And our mind keeps growing and our circles of people keep expanding. And, so the ROI is almost like there's a true financial, you can see the financial ROI. I mean, we've gone from a negative net worth to over 8-figure net worth, right? And so that's in itself, that's the financial ROI. The ROI from my formal education, if I didn't do real estate investing and I just stopped there and I didn't become a practice owner, you would just calculate $110,000 to $160,000 a year consistently with nothing else, right? But becoming a practice owner allowed us to not just go from 100,000, we're able to have, $4 or $5 million consistently coming in from just our practices. So it's a very different ROI, right? It's a time commitment and you learn a lot and there's more risk involved, but it's well worth it. You're your own boss. And then you utilize the cash flow from your business to now have your money work for you. And so in the real estate investing world, that helped us save a lot on our taxes too, but it's also helped us help a lot of other people. And so now we're able to have the time freedom, which we didn't have from just our formal education and our practice. Now, the real estate investment and the self-development world has really helped us in that journey to have our time freedom, continue our financial freedom, but then also do bigger mission work and more philanthropy work. And so that's a whole nother growth. And the ROI on that's truly immeasurable, And the money is just a byproduct, believe it or not. If you're just out there providing value and wanting to help and serve more people, the money just comes. The money is the byproduct. And that's the beauty of how all of this works. And it's how many more people can I serve? And, that's, if you start thinking along that mindset, that's where the biggest ROI. So, you don't have to have a degree, but you do have to continue learning. And even if you have a degree and 10 titles, it doesn't mean you're set. Complacency kills dreams. Comfort kills dreams. Fear kills dreams. Continue to keep growing, keep expanding, open mind, open heart, and just, do more good, help more people, but take care of yourself during that journey. Make sure you take care of yourself so you're truly happy and continue. I always talk about inner peace, inner happiness, fill your cup before you, and the best version of you can help serve others so well. So I thank you so much for spending this much time with me today, everyone. And I look forward to our next live together. But remember to live and give. All right, Gina Dow. You're so inspiring. So excited to hear you're coming out with the show. I could listen to you talk all day. You're too sweet. Thank you, Anna, as well. These shows, and I just said, I'm just going to do them. I don't know how to do these lives, but I'm going to just start doing it. And so lighting, background, sound, I'm going to work on improving all of that as we're going to launch our show. But, I did on my first one, I said, just get started, and you'll pivot and you'll learn. Hi, Melissa. Thank you for the feedback. We met Melissa at Aerial BVI, and that was such a great summit. But yes, meeting people like that, it's great. But thank you, everyone. Have a blessed day.